You will have a chance later, as long as we have the time. I'm going to Professor Maniatis. Hello, Mr. Maniatis. Your 4 minutes, if it's possible, views on the energy architecture of Southeast Europe, please.
First of all, thank you for inviting me to this very interesting panel. I will start with few words about the current European natural gas crisis. After the Russian invasion in Ukraine, energy security has returned to the first stage of interest, joining climate change or climate crisis as a top concern for governments. Diversification of alternative import sources and routes remains key to decrease the region's import dependency on Russia. My first comment is that besides the current natural gas crisis, we have even until now a constant negative approach of EU institutions against funding gas networks and pipelines infrastructure. We should add to the above that during the last 6 years, the European indigenous gas production has decreased by 35%, from 145 BCM in 2015 to only 95 BCM in 2021, a decrease of 50 billion cubic meters in just 6 years. Today, Europe produces only 9% of the gas it consumes. Europe has every interest in exploiting its domestic natural gas reserves, which are estimated at 10 to 12 trillion cubic meters in total. They are found in North Sea, Black Sea, Adriatic, Ionian Sea, and East Mediterranean. According to the Greek Hydrocarbon Authority, in the Ionian Sea and south and west of Crete, the identified geological structures could host reserves reaching 2,000 billion cubic meters. Second comment on the green energy transition. Green energy creates new geopolitical challenges. Demand for critical minerals rise by as much as 6 times, while specific minerals demands, such as lithium, graphite, cobalt, nickel, rare earths, will increase up to 42 times. But 75% of processing of these materials is dependent on China. So China dominance extends to renewables and battery manufacturing, with 50% on wind turbines, 85% on photovoltaics, 90% on batteries, and more than 50% on electric vehicles. My third comment on the European energy crisis. EU must formulate a new, complete strategic plan of both alternative supplies as well as avoidance of over-dependence from third countries, every third country. In parallel, all these events have highlighted the need for the EU to formulate a new modern, as I call it, energy strategy doctrine. A doctrine for today's world, which is very different from the world in 2000s. In other words, the energy green transition alone is not enough anymore as an energy strategy. Now, coming to Greece, a few words about Greece. Greece, having a wise and multidimensional energy strategy since 2010, has benefited from increased diversification of energy sources. Having TAP, IGB, the Alexandroupolis FSRU, the LNG terminal in Revithoussa, all these projects that we have included in European funding instruments 10 years ago will give to Greece the potential to transfer to EU up to 30 billion cubic meters of natural gas annually. Should the East Med gas pipeline be constructed, this would bring the total to 40 BCM, 40 billion cubic meters. close to 10% of the total European consumption. When both its lines will be in operation, it will carry a total of 21 BCM per year. The EastMed construction will be completed within 36 months, with a total investment of 5.2 billion euros and a life cycle of more than 50 years. EastMed will allow the transportation of hydrogen, the fuel of the future, and also that it will have a synergy with renewable energy sources along its route. About the intercontinental electricity interconnectors, which will bring green energy from Israel and Egypt to Northern Europe through Greece. This is a great geopolitical opportunity for Greece. This could also take a form of, as I call it, a new electric highway, a south-north highway starting from Greece, crossing Bulgaria and Romania towards Germany. So besides the pipeline diplomacy, we need a new electric cable diplomacy that will account for the geopolitical instability of the energy transition. Just to say that Greece already 8 years ago has increased the total installed capacity in renewables by 240%. And since 2014, Greece is the 6th higher country all over the world in per capita production of photovoltaic energy, as well as the 6th higher country in EU in solar, in both solar and wind participation in production of electricity. And finalizing my remarks, we must learn from our mistakes. We cannot allow our future energy system to rely on 100% imported equipment. We must ensure that key technologies are also produced in Europe. Otherwise, we're just paving the path for repeated and possibly even more acute price surges in the future. All the above indicate that Greece and East Mediterranean may grow into a new hopeful source of energy supply for the European Union. Thanks. This is my first approach.
Thank you. Do you have a comment on that?
Well, just let me remind all of us what recently has been published, not as an estimation, but as a study in during an international meeting. The EastMed reserves in Israel and Cyprus, excluding Egypt, excluding Greece, in Israel and Cyprus, are enough in order to send gas to Damietta and Itku, the two LNG infrastructures in Egypt, to feed the regional economies. I'm talking about Israel, Lebanon, and Jordan. And third, to send an amount of about 10 billion cubic meters through EastMed. So on the issue of the question whether there is enough quantity of natural gas, the answer so far is that for whatever we know now, we will feed the regional economies, the two LNG facilities, as well as EastMed. This estimation has been given also to the Italian government, and this is why Prime Minister Mario Draghi, as well as the 5 biggest political parties in the Italian parliament, have asked to improve, to support, to finance the EastMed pipeline, which can give a hope to the Italian and the rest of European energy infrastructure. So finally, the company of the pipeline is going to submit an application for financing to European Union funds, having all the documentation which is necessary for this funding. Let's see in very few weeks what will happen. But in any case, if we have as a priority our independence from the Russian gas, the two LNG infrastructures is in Egypt, as well as EastMed are our two pillars in order to improve and to implement such a strategy. Both of them.
Mr. Maniatis, you want to add something on that? Yeah, please.
Just a comment on the previous questions about the Greek-American cooperation. I remember 10 years ago when we have worked very constructively, the Greek and the American government, in order to convince the then Bulgarian government to accept its participation in the Greek-Bulgarian interconnector, IGB. And now I feel happy to see that IGB, 10 years later on, is a reality. But now, since we all agree that Greece is an anchor of stability in the greater East Mediterranean area, and since we have so excellent cooperation with the United States of America, I think that we should go on, besides all the other issues, in order to establish a common Greek-American research center on renewables and on green transition. I think that the cooperation between the Greek universities and companies with respective American will bring knowledge, innovation, and new investments in our region. I really hope that this could be reality.
Thank you very much. I think